Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we are talking about superior and inferior radioulnar joints and wrist joint. Our objectives are identify the bones forming superior and inferior radioulnar joints and wrist joint, describe the capsule and ligaments of the above mentioned joints, explain the articulation of wrist joint with carpal bones, and in the last we will discuss the movements taking place at these joints and the muscles which are performed in that. So we start with superior inferior radioulnar joints. So what we are looking at is our two bones of the forearm, the radius, which is the lateral bone, and the medial bone is ulna. So here we can see the trochlear notch is articulating, and the head of the radius from the upper part, the superior part, is articulating with the lower end of the humerus and forming the elbow joint. So just below the elbow joint, here we can see the radial head is connecting or attaching with the ulna to make a joint, and lower end also connecting together to make another joint. These two joints are known as superior and inferior radioulnar joints, or they are also known as proximal and distal radioulnar joint, as this joint is near to the body trunk, so that's why it is known as proximal radioulnar joint. Also, the ulna and the radius are connected together through the interosseous membrane, which is a fibrous tissue connecting the two membranes, and sometimes this connection is known as intermediate radioulnar joint. But mainly, generally we consider two superior and inferior radioulnar joints. That is the anterior view. Here we can see the radius and ulna and the movement which is taking place at these two joints is supination as well as pronation. So we can see that the radius is moving at the lower end across the ulna. So we will talk about in detail in later slides. So first of all, we will start with superior radioulnar joint. Superior radioulnar joint is formed by the head of the radius, which articulates with the radial notch of the ulna, but that is not a direct articulation. The head is connected to the radial notch of the ulna with the help of a ligament, which is known as annular ligament. So we will see in upcoming slides picture of this annular ligament. So head of the radius articulate with the radial notch of the ulna. It is a type of pivot joint. So already in foundation we have discussed type of joints of the or synovial joint types. So pivot is a type of a joint in which one bone rotates on the other bone, or one bone rotates around a ligament on the other bone, and this is the only joint or type of the joint in the body in which the axis of movement is vertical. In most of the other joints, the axis of movements are horizontal, but in the pivot joint, the axis of movement is vertical, that we are going to discuss. So connection between head of the radius and radial notch of the ulna. It is a synovial joint of pivot variety. It is, or the head of the radius is placed with the radial notch of the ulna with the help of a ligament which is known as annular ligament. And radioulnar articulation is stabilized by the interosseous membrane, that we have also named this as the intermediate radioulnar joint. So here we can see this is the formation of the elbow joint. The trochlea of the humerus is connecting with the trochlear notch of the ulna, and capitulum of the humerus is connecting with the superior surface of the head of the radius with a little bit gap. So this is the elbow joint. So just below the elbow joint we can see the head of the radius is just connecting with the radial notch of the ulna. These are the bones which are articulating head of the radius and radial notch of the ulna. Now we can see that these are the ligaments, the radial and ulnar collateral ligaments of the elbow joint. This is ulnar collateral ligament and this is radial collateral ligament, which are supporting and keeping the bones in position. So just below that we can see there is a ligament which is here we can see it is attaching to the side of the radial notch of the ulna, and then it is going across the head toward the other side, which we can't see in this diagram. We will see in the other diagram. That is known as annular ligament, and this annular ligament is named as annular because it is moving around completely or making a circle. That's why it is known as annular ligament. And here we also see a rhesus. This is the synovial membrane which is just below the annular ligament, and already you know in synovial joint there is a mucous membrane which are secreting synovial fluid known as synovial membrane. So the synovial membrane here is not only covering the area of the annular ligament, but it is extending down and making a sac like structure. So that sac means just like a bag like structure, that is known as sac-C-form ligament. So the term sac means a bag like structure over here, this one. So it is little bit hanging down, that's why it is known as sac, and completely rhesus is the extension, so that's why it is known as sac C form rhesus of synovial membrane. This is another diagram which you can see the ulnar lateral radial collateral ligaments of the elbow. Along with that you can see the annular ligament. Now here we can see this is a transverse section which is showing the polychronic process of the ulna, and what it is showing, this is a radial notch. So this is almost a superior view. We can say that this is a superior view through which we can see. So this is the radial notch of the ulna. This is its posterior end and this is the anterior end. And here you can see the annular ligament is attaching to the posterior part and making a circle around the head of the radius and then attaching towards the anterior part of the ulna. So here you can see also this portion we are looking from up. In this direction we are looking down. So we look at like this, that this is the radial notch of the ulna giving attachment posteriorly and anteriorly to the ligament which is known as annular ligament, which is completely encircling the head of the radius, known as annular ligament. And here you can see, as we have discussed, it is a pivot type of joint in which one bone is rotating around the other bone. So this is the part of the joint, that is the annular ligament, which is attached to the ulnar bone. Here make a circle, and inside that circle the head of the radius rotates while the movement of supination and pronation. That's why it is known as pivot type of joint, and this is the long axis of the rotatory movement. As we have discussed that this is the only joint in the body, or the pivot type of joint in the body. Also there is an example in the neck which is known as atlantoaxial joint. That atlantoaxial joint is also a pivot type of joint in which the rotatory movements take place. So these movements in which the bones are rotating on one another. You can see here this is the normal at angle position, this is ulna and this is radius. So as the lower end of the radius rotates over the ulna, this movement is known as rotatory movement, and this axis is known as vertical axis. So always remember that the movement which are taking place on pivot joint, and especially superior inferior radioulnar joint, they are on the axis of vertical direction. And here you can see that ulna is in its position a little bit moved, but mainly the anterior end of the radius is moving, lower end of the radius is moving around the ulna to do the movement which is known as pronation. Supination is a movement in which we keep the arm in normal and at middle position as compared to the pronation in which the dorsum is facing forward. So this is the lateral view which you can see and appreciate. In the lateral view you can see the annular ligament and you can see the joint cavity between the humerus as well as the ulna. So the annular ligament has completely involved the or encircled the head of the radius. That is the lateral view, and the annular ligament also connected to the fibers of radial collateral ligament. While if we go on the medial aspect of the, so this is the annular ligament and this annular ligament is enclosing the head of the radius, and the ulnar collateral ligament is connected to the ulna and the humerus, but it is not any connection with the annular ligament. So remember that laterally the radial collateral ligament and annular ligament are connected together for elbow and radioulnar joints, although they are two separate joints. But on the medial side, the ulnar collateral ligament has no connection with the annular ligament. See the same which I have shown you: annular ligament and radial collateral ligament, and this is annular ligament and ulnar collateral ligament. Now this diagram is actually showing the synovial membrane of the elbow joint as well as the superior radioulnar joint. So the synovial membrane of the elbow joint is actually extending down till the superior radioulnar joint, and here is the extension of this synovial membrane, which is known as SAC-C form, races of synovial membrane. And the importance of this races is that when the pronation is taking place and radius is rotating around it, so it is not bending or tearing or stretching. So there will be no stretch or tearing or bending of this races taking place. So the synovial membrane always remember intact while we are doing the movements of supination pronation, because of the presence of this hanging position of the synovial membrane and forming the saxiform vessels. The movements around the elbow joint, as we have seen that at elbow joint two movements are taking place because it is a hinge type of joint. Only two movements can take place: flexion and extension, and the axis of movement is horizontal. While in superior radioulnar joint, the axis of movement is vertical and rotatory movements are taking place, and these movements are known as supination and pronation. Now the inferior radioulnar joint, the rounded head of the radii ulna articulates with the ulnar notch on the medial side of the distal end of the radius. So again the two bones are united together, but here the head is not of radius but for ulna. So rounded head of ulna unites with the distal end of the radius on a notch which is known as ulnar notch of the radius to form inferior or distal radioulnar joint. Now, exceptional structure which is present in the inferior radioulnar joint is the presence of a fibrocartilaginous triangular articular disc, which is also known as triangular ligament of the inferior radioulnar joint. So it is a disc thick fibrocartilage which is present at the joint cavity between the specifically between the ulna as well as the carpal bones. So this is known as fibrocartilaginous triangular articular disc of the distal radioulnar joints. It bind the ulna and radius together. How that we are going to do. So here you can see, if you enlarge this part, this is the distal radioulnar joint in which head of the radius ulna is articulating with the ulnar notch of the radius over here. And if you see here that a disc is present between the carpal bones as well as the ulna, and this is known as articular disc of the joint, that is inferior radioulnar joint, with also the wrist that we are going to discuss later. So here you can see distal radial nerve joint again and the joint cavity of it, and here you can see the articular disc, this one. This diagram is also showing the carpal bones and other joints which we will discuss later. So this is the joint cavity of the distal radial joint or inferior radial joint, and this is the joint cavity of the wrist joint, and then we have different joint cavities of the carpal bone that we are going to discuss later. Here also you can appreciate this is the lower end of the radius, this is the lower end of the ulna, and here is the ligamentous border of the articular disc, or we can say triangular ligament of the inferior radial joint, and below this ligament or this articular area we can see the synovial membrane, and again the synovial membrane is hanging and forming a sac-like structure which is known as sac-shaped formation of the radial joint. Again, why this is important? Because when the lower end of the radius rotates over ulna, so there will be no stretching or tearing of the synovial membrane takes place. So it prevents the stretching, bending or tearing of the synovial membrane. Already in the previous lecture, we little bit talked about supination and pronation. So here we can see supination. The vertical axis is passing through the ring finger. As we can see, this is the anterior view, this is the posterior view, and then anterior view. So the two muscles of the forearm, pronator teres in the upper part and pronator quadratus in the lower part, they help in the movement which is known as pronation. So pronation is done by pronator teres and pronator quadratus. So as these two muscles contracts, they rotate the lower end of the radius on the anterior aspect of the ulna and take the lower end towards the anterior and medial side of the ulna, and the movement which is taking place is pronation. So our dorsum will be facing front. This is the normal anatomy position in which the palm is facing on the front side, but when pronation is taking place the dorsum is facing on the front side. And again then the action of supinator and biceps brachii, when these two muscle contracts, they take back that pronated palm as or in the position of supination. So pronator teres and pronator quadratus are doing pronation, and supinator and biceps brachii are doing supination. Now biceps brachii, along with these two, biceps brachii is known as powerful supinator along with the supinator. So if there is no resistance to the hand, then supinator can perform the movement of supination, but on the other hand biceps brachii is more stronger in performing supination as compared to supinator. So here the same diagram showing the position of the when there is a supination in which supinator contact with the biceps, and on the other side when the pronator teres and quadratus both contacts, pronation takes place. Now one more thing which is important here, as we have discussed already, the lower end of the ulna generally don't move a lot, but a little bit movement of the lower end takes place and it moves little bit laterally. And that is done by, which is known as lateral movement of the lower end as abduction of the ulna, and that is done by a small muscle which is known as encomius, which is the muscle at the level of elbow. So by the contraction of elbow muscle and coneus, a little bit movement of the ulna takes place and ulna little bit moves toward the lateral side. But major movements takes place of the lower end of the radius. This diagram is showing supination and pronation. So you can see here this is the articular area of the radius when it is supinated, and when it moves around the, this is the ulna. So this diagram we can see in large. This is the ulna head and this is the radius lower end. So the lower end of the radius all the way moves from lateral to the medial side, while in pronation, and when the pronation goes back or towards the supination, it goes back to its normal lateral side. So this position is known as supination, in which the lower end of the radius is on the lateral side. When it moves toward the medial side, that is pronation. And if this position is in the center, and this is known as mid-prone position. What is mid-prone position? In simple way, we can say while we are shaking hands, so the position of the hand is that our little finger is facing downward toward the ground, and our index finger and thumb is facing towards the sky or upward. Or in simple words, when we shake hand, the position of the hand or the palm is known as mid-prone position. So in mid-prone position, the lower end of the radius will be lying almost vertical. That's all about the superior radioulnar joint. Now we will move to the wrist joint, or also known as radiocarpal joint, because mainly the union is taking place, or a joint is forming between the radius and the carpal. So here we can see this is the lower end of the radius, this is the lower end of the ulna, this is inferior radioulnar joint, and here you can see that there is a direct connection between the lower end of the radius with the carpal bones, but there is a gap between the ulna and the carpal bones. So wrist joint is mainly between the carpal bones and the lower end of the radius, and indirectly between the ulna and the carpal bones, because in between we have a articular disc. So here we can see the carpal bones. There are 8 carpal bones. Already you have discussed about them. There is a proximal row and there is a distal row. The proximal row, the first bone on the lateral side is scaphoid. Then we have lunate, then tracheotomy, and above tracheotomy we have pisiform. These all 4 bones are forming the proximal row, and the distal row we have trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, and hamate. This is the distal row of the carpal bones. So the joint between the radius, ulna, and the proximal row of the carpal bones form the wrist joint, and the joint between the proximal and distal row is mid-carpal joint, and the joint between the distal rows of the carpal bones and the metacarpal bones is known as carpo-metacarpal joint. So this is carpo-metacarpal joint, mid-carpal joint, and the wrist joint. So this is just a easy way to remember these bones, as Sally left the party to take Kathy home. So as for scaphoid, lunate, tracheotomy, pisiform, trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, and hamate. This is the posterior view showing the same bones: scaphoid, lunate, tracheotomy, pisiform, trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, and hamate. So we will talk about the wrist joint articulation type, capsule, ligaments, and so here we can see the articulation between the distal end of the radius and articular disc above. So distal end of the radius articulate with the along with the articular disc of the lower part of the ulna. So this make a arch shaped structure as known as carpal arch. So these bones, which are known as carpal bones, forming an arch-like structure just opposite the bones of wrist, which are known as lower end of the radius, and the articular disc related to the ulna. So this joint is formed between the distal end of the radius and articular disc on one side, and on the other side between the scaphoid, lunate, and tracheotomy. But pisiform is not taking part in the formation of this joint, because it is a bone which is known as sesamoid bone, and it is present in the tendinoflexor carpi ulnaris. So these first 3 carpal bones of the proximal row articulates with the lower end of the radius and ulna through articular disc form the wrist joint or radiocarpal joint. Regarding the type of the joint, it is a synovial joint of ellipsoid variety, in which one joint surface is concave and other joint surface is convex. So ligaments of the joint, every synovial joint, as we have discussed, is completely enclosed in a connective tissue covering which is known as capsule of the joint. So here you can see the capsule of the joint is removed from here. So if we see, this whole area is covered by connective tissue completely, which is removed, known as capsule. And below that we can see the ligaments as radial collateral ligament between the radius and the scaphoid. This is known as radial collateral ligament. The other ligament between the ulna and triquetral known as ulnar collateral ligament. And there is a ligament which is between the radius and the carpal bones known as palmar radiocarpal ligament, because this is the anterior side of the palm. So this ligament which is connecting the radius with the carpal bone on the palmar aspect will be known as palmar radiocarpal ligament. Specifically, it is the part of radiotracheotral, because radius is connecting through this ligament to the tracheotomy. So you can say as palmar radiocarpal ligament. Actually, the ligament is radiotracheotral part of palmar radiocarpal ligament. In the same way, you have other parts of the ligaments as radiocapitate part of palmar radiocarpal ligament between the radius and the capitate. And here you can already discuss this point, and along with that you can see the radioscapulohumerate part of palmar radiocarpal ligament. So this whole is radiocarpal ligament, but different parts or the names are given according to the bones which are connected together. Here in the posterior view you can see the dorsal radiocarpal ligament on the dorsal side, and you can also appreciate the radial collateral as well as the ulnar collateral ligaments. So all the carpal bones articulate via gliding or plain synovial joints together. So the joints which are formed between the carpal bones are plain synovial joints, and already we know through foundation that plain synovial joints are the joints in which the joint cavity is plain and only gliding or sliding movements are taking place at that part. A joint exists between the proximal row and the distal row of the bones between the carpal bones, and that is known as mid-carpal joint, which is between the scaphoid, lunate and tracheotomy on one row. On the other row we have trapezium, trapezoid and capitate with hamate. So four bones of the proximal row unite with the three bones of the four bones of the distal row articulate with the three rows of the proximal row. And pisiform, as we have discussed, it is a sesamoid bone in the flancocarpal ulnar tendon, so it is not involved in the formation of midcarpal joint. So here you can see this is our distal radioulnar joint. Then we have an articular disc. This is the joint cavity of the wrist joint or radiocarpal joint. And then you can see the distal row of the carpal bone. This is the proximal row of the carpal bone. This is the distal row of the carpal bones. In between them we have a joint cavity, you can see. So this joint cavity is known as mid-carpal joint. And you can see these bones are connecting together through plain synovial joints. And the other joint cavity between the carpal bone, the distal row and the metacarpal bones are known as carpo-metacarpal articulation. Here also we can see radius, then the lunate, capitate and the metacarpal bone. So here what we can see that radius connected to the proximal row of the carpal bones, then the distal row of the carpal bones and then the metacarpal bones. Also you can see the movement, this movement is known as flexion of the wrist as well as the finger. So the muscles which are performing the movements at the wrist joint are mainly flexion is done by flexor carpi radialis and flexor carpi ulnaris. So they are the main flexors of the wrist joint, flexor carpi radialis and flexor carpi ulnaris. and they take their support by the other muscles which are passing towards the fingers, as the flexors of the fingers and thumb, and the palmar longus and anti-abductor pollicis longus. So remember, there is a rule: if a muscle is passing a joint, it will act on that joint. But if a muscle is passing through multiple joints, like in case of wrist and the mid-carpal joint and carpal metacarpal joint, and then long flexor tendons are inserting on the phalanges. So in between all the joints, these movements, the movements will be taking place. But the most powerful movement they perform where they are get attached. So a muscle has two attachments: a distal attachment and a proximal attachment. Proximal attachment is known as origin, and distal arrangement is known as attachment is known as insertion. So the movement of the muscle takes place mostly on the insertion point. So the part of the bone where the muscle is get inserted, that near joint will be more powerfully will be doing the movement of that muscle. So flexor carpi radialis and flexor carpi ulnaris, because they both are attaching to the carpal bones, so they will powerfully move the wrist joint, and they will take their support by the long flexors of the fingers and thumb, and palmaris longus, which is attached to the flexor reticulum, and abductor pollicis longus, which is going towards the thumb. The extension in the same way is done by extensor carpi radialis longus, extensor carpi radialis brevis, and extensor carpi ulnaris, because they all are getting their insertion toward the carpal bones, so they will perform the they will act as powerful extensors, along with, or they will take their support with the help of extensors of the fingers and the thumb. The abduction is done by abductor pollicis longus, flexor carpi radialis, extensor carpi radialis longus, and extensor carpi radialis brevis. But abductor pollicis longus is the powerful abductor along with these muscles. So its abduction is limited to approximately 15 degrees because of the projecting distal styloid process. So if we perform the movement of the wrist joint, we can do horizontal on axis. We have flexion and extension, but if we perform the movement of abduction and adduction, so abduction is less as compared to adduction. So we can move more our palm towards the ulnar side or ulnar deviation, but radial deviation or abduction is little bit limited till 15 degrees. Why? Because the radial styloid process is projected, so it prevents more movement of the bones as compared to the ulnar deviation or adduction. And adduction is simultaneously contraction of the extensor carpi ulnaris and flexor carpi ulnaris causes the movement of adduction. And here we can see this is the normal anatomical position, this is the flexion, in which wrist angle is decreased, and if the angle is increased, that is extension. And here we can see also the bones radius, the two carpal bones, metacarpal bone, and then the phalanges, showing the third metacarpal bone. So this is the flexion of the fingers along with the wrist, and that is the extension. So if we see the joint cavity, what we can see is the distal end of the ulna, and this is the distal end of the radius. So flexor carpi radialis and extensor carpi radialis longus and extensor carpi radialis brevis, they all will try, because they are present on the lateral side, so their contraction causes abduction of the wrist, and flexor carpi ulnaris and extensor carpi ulnaris, they lie on the medial, or they attach on the medial side of the wrist, so their contraction will cause adduction of the wrist. So this is about wrist joint as well as superior and inferior radial joint. So if you have any question, please ask me on my email. Thank you very much.